We will be studying Srimad Bhagawatam Canto, the static, chapter 6, the creation of the universal form, and verse 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Ekanta
Ekanta
Labam
Lam
Vachaso
Vachaso
Nupumsam.
Nupumsam.
Ekanta Labam Vachaso Nupumsam.
Ekanta Lam Vachaso Nupumsam.
Sushloka
Shloka
Maulir
Malir
Guna
Guna
Vadam
Vadam
Ahu
Ahu
Sushloka Malir Guna Vadam Ahu
Shloka Malir Guna Vadam Ahu
Shrutesh
Shrutesh
Cha
Cha
Vidvad Bir
Vidvahir
Upakritayam
Upakritayam
Shrutes Cha Vidvad Bir Upakritayam
Shrutesh Cha Vidvahir Upakritayam
Shrutes Cha Vidvad Bir Upakritayam
Shrutesh Cha Vidvahir Upakritayam
Kata
Kata
Sudayam
Sudayam
Upasam Prayogam
Upasam
Kata Sudayam Upasam Prayogam
Sudayam Upasam
Ikata Labam Vachaso Supumsam Sushloka Malir Gunavadam Aho Shrutis Cha Vidvad Bir Upakritayam Kata Sadayam Upasam Prayogam Ekanta Labam Vacho Nupumsam Sushloka Malir Gunavadam Aho Shrutis Cha Vidvad Bir Upakritayam Kata Sudayam Upasam Prayogam. Others? Akantalabam Vachaso Nupumsam Sushlokamalir Ladamur Shrutis Chavidvad Bir Upakritayam Kata Subayam Upasam Prayogam Ikantalabam Vachaso Nupumsam Sushlokamalir Gunavadamahu Shrutis Chavidvad Bir Upakritayam Kata Sudayam Upasam Prayogam Ikantalabam Vachaso Nupumsam Sushlokamalir Gunavadamahu Sushres Chavidvad Bir Upakritayam Kata Sudayam Upasam Prayogam Ekantalabam vachaso nupumsam Sushlokamalir gunavadamahur Susheshat vidvadvir upakritayam Katasudayam upasamprayogam Akantalabam vachaso nupumsam Sushlokamalir gunavadamahur Sushreshcha vidvadvir upakritayam Katasudayam upasamprayogam Eka anta, the one who has no comparison. Labam, gain. Vachasaha, by discussions. Nupumsam, after the Supreme Person. Sushloka, pious. Maule, activities. Gunavadam, glorification. Ahu, it is said so. It is so said, yes. Shrute, of the ear. Cha, also. Vidvadvir, by the learned. Upakritayam, being so edited. Katasudayam, in the nectar of such a transcendental message. Upasamprayogam, serves the real purpose, being nearer to. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Repeat after me. The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Purport. The impersonalists are very much afraid of hearing the activities of the Lord because they think that the happiness derived from being transcendentally situated in Brahman is the ultimate goal of life. I was really thinking about that, thinking about it intensely. And I know that there are times that I make a joke and I'll say, boy, because I'll be maybe suffering like anything, and I'll say, right now, merging into the Brahmajyoti sounds like a good idea. That's like a relief from stress. But where is the, they're thinking that this is happiness, and what it really is relief. They think that anyone's activities, even that of the personality of Godhead, is mundane. They don't understand. They have no idea. They think that Krishna's activities are not transcendental. They're not getting it. So sad. But the idea of happiness indicated in this verse is different because it relates to the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has transcendental qualities. They're not understanding what Srila Prabhupada has taught us, that the Sat, Chit, Ananda, that the Sat is the eternal aspect, is that Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, it's eternal, and it's the energy of Krishna, unmanifested energy of Krishna. And the localized aspect of Krishna is Paramatma in each heart, each living entity, every living entity, even the ant's heart is a Paramatma. There, it's localized, and that's the Chit Shakti, all knowledge, all information, the perfect surveillance system Krishna has, because he's in every particle of his, every square inch of his energy and being. He is locally localized. He has a localized aspect of Paramatma there. So that's Chit. Chit is intelligence. It gives information, always giving information. But the Ananda, Sat, Chit, and Ananda, the Ananda aspect of Krishna, that which gives bliss, is only in relationship. It's only in relationship with Bhagavan Sri Krishna. The Bhagavan aspect, Sat, Chit, Ananda, is available only by relating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's where the bliss is. There's relief, there's knowledge, but there's bliss in relationship. So, having part of the truth may bring a relief, but having the whole truth will bring joy. So the word vadam is significant because the qualities of the Lord and his activities and pastimes are the subject matter for the discussions of the devotees. We only want to hear about Krishna. We don't want to hear any Gramya Katha. I call Gramya Katha grumble Katha, because it's just like, it's negative sound vibration. It's not meant to elevate us, to give us even relief. It's just tying us into this horrible world of suffering. So the devotees, they're always interested in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. And when we hear anything but the pastimes of the Lord, it's almost violent. It feels horrible to all this negative messaging that we're getting, that the material world is reflecting to us. A rishi like Maitreya is certainly not interested in discussing anything pertaining to mundane activities. Yet, he says that the highest perfectional stage of transcendental realization is to discuss the Lord's activities. So when you see these completely liberated beings discussing and vibrating and relishing the pastimes of Krishna, they're not interested in anything like what's on the news. What's on the news? That's one step above hell, is only, just to know what's on the news. So Srila Jiva Goswami therefore concludes that topics regarding the transcendental activities of the Lord are far beyond the transcendental realization of Kaivalya happiness. Kaivalya, Brahman, to know Brahman, the energy of Krishna, is to be a Brahman. That's nice, but there's a lot more to be understood. There's that little song, it's getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to hope you like me. It's a beautiful, beautiful relationship. Love comes from relationship, getting to know all about Krishna's activities, his transcendental pastimes. In Srimad Bhagavatam is one of such great literatures, and the highest perfectional state of life is attained simply by hearing and reciting its contents. Hearing about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, hearing about the pastimes of Krishna, hearing about the struggles of the devotees and the sacrifices they made to serve Krishna. These are very enlivening topics. They inspire us to do more service. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, in summing up this chapter, he said, because the ocean of topics of the Lord cannot be crossed, no one can have complete knowledge of this. People can become successful by chanting and hearing about the Lord with some amount of knowledge and thus attain the Lord. And this is my favorite line. Describing anything else is a waste of words. Anything else, describing anything except for that which is pertaining to serving Krishna, and that which is pertaining the activities of Krishna, and that which is pertaining to the pleasure of Krishna, is a waste of words. We don't want to hear it. And it is the highest attainment to closely offer upasam prayogam, the ears, shruti, to the nectar topics of the Lord described, upakritayam, by the learned. So here we even see this young devotee studying. I thought this is really sweet. And I remember when my son was really, really young, he tried to walk into the pictures. Prabhupada said these pictures in our scriptures are windows to the spiritual world. He thought he could just enter in by just walking into the pictures. And that's what these pictures are designed to do, invite us to get closer to the pastime, invite us, attract us to. So in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, 9, 8, in the translation in the purport, Lord Brahma, he was the first created living entity we're all knowing. He underwent great penances for 1,000 years by the calculation of the demigods. He heard this transcendental vibration from the sky and he accepted it as divine. Thus he controlled his mind and senses, and the penance he executed were a great lesson for the living entities. Thus he is known as the greatest of all ascetics. He just heard one word to pass. He heard, it was Lord Brahma heard the occult sound tapa, and he did not see the person who vibrated the sound. And still he accepted the instruction as beneficial for him. And therefore he engaged himself in meditation for 1,000 celestial years. In the beginning of creation, meditation for thousands of years was the recommended process for self-realization. I mean, if we can meditate for 3 minutes without a notification on our cell phone going ping and our attention going to that notification or the phone ringing or some such, the other day we were in the temple and we heard these big loud noises and the lights flickered. There was some transformer somewhere had a problem. There's so many distractions in this world. So meditation is out of the question. We can't even meditate for a few minutes peacefully. What to speak of thousands of years. So what happened is in each age, they discounted the process. They made it easier and easier and easier. And there was deity worship, fire sacrifices. All of these are bona fide processes of self-realization, but they're very complicated. And there are stories in the scriptures where if you chant one mantra wrong, you get the opposite effect. So this age of Kali, because our intelligence is not very strong, and our ability to concentrate and give attention is weaker, the process of devotional service by Lord Chaitanya has become so easy. It's just repeating the names of Krishna. That sound vibration, his activities, his form, everything is within his names. So this process has been given to us to make it easy so that we can actually absorb our. The fact of the matter is, as soon as we expose ourselves to anything in the mundane creation, we're being affected by it. And there was a particular doctor who did a lot of research, and he proved through decades of research that the molecular structure of water would be altered with human intention alone, and by the words we speak, by the sounds we make. And he photographed with his atomic microscope the molecular structure of water and how the molecular structure would change when you would say, you could see on the second row, I love you. It's very beautiful. Or peace. It's very eternal truth. The molecular structure is very gorgeous. And then there's as opposed to saying, you fool, it starts to get almost like a spider web, kind of congested. And then you make me sick. It's just it looks like disease. And then evil, it looks like an abyss, like a black hole. So these particular molecular structures of the water are totally altered by sound. And that's the material world. So what to speak of the spiritual world? We want to expose ourselves to spiritual sound. It's very potent. And here we are, it's like we're polluting our atmosphere by talking all this Brahmi Katha, and it's not necessarily great. This is an expansion of those the pictures of the water molecules. And what happens even in the last two pictures you see here, there's polluted water, and then they prayed over that polluted water, and how just by praying that water got purified. It got purified. We were involved in, I was actually close by whenever they were rerouting the Jamuna River. The flow had gone to the other side, and it was bogging down over in the Vrindavan side, and there were many, many cows dying, and there were hundreds of serpents just floating in the Jamuna because the water had gotten so toxic, because the Jamuna Canal has stool running down it. And since they diverted the water stream where it flowed very quickly to the other side, they built this huge jetty of land. The real estate developers wanted to develop more land, so they created land. And what happened was I was part of a project. It was the Jamuna Purification Project, and they were saying, the scientists, they tested the water. There was a whole panel of the Mahants in Vrindavan, Padmanabh Goswami, Mr. Gill, Chandi. There were a lot of the Mahants that had come forward, and they were very concerned about the Jamuna River. And they were having the water tested before it hit Vrindavan, and then after it left Mathura. It had gone all through Vraj. And even though there was something like 3 dumping stations of stool going into the river in Vraj, they couldn't understand how the water was 50% purer when it left Vrindavan. Because just by touching Vrindavan, just by going past Mathura, Gokul, that water was getting purified. And the scientists were going, this is baffling us. Look at how the water has gotten clean just touching this part of the real estate. So prayer, we were given this Gange cha Yamuna chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmada Sindhu Kaveri Jalismin Sanidim Kuru. And that is acknowledging all these holy rivers, all bodies of water are connected. And when we speak spiritual sound vibrations, then everything becomes more sattvically arranged, more beautifully arranged, more in tune with the mode of goodness. And according to H.H. Mitchell in a journal of biological chemistry, the brain and heart are composed of 73% water, and the lungs are about 83%. And the skin 64%, muscles and kidneys 79%, and even the bones are watery by 31%. So if we're speaking nonsense or exposing ourselves to nonsense, do you think the molecules in our body aren't getting all jammed up? Yes, they are. So what does Prabhupada give us? The first thing in the morning, we get up, sing and dance for Krishna. We get our molecules in order. Even on a mundane platform, it's like so good for us, so good for our health. In fact, Mr. Jain, who is a doctor, he was saying, in the morning when we get up and sing and dance, it's pranayam. We're exercising our lungs. And Parvati, she lived in Vrindavan a long, long time, and the doctor was saying to her the fact that she would get up for Mangalartik and sing loudly, making a joyful noise unto the Lord, how that was so good for her health. So good for her health. So we can see we're made of, these bodies are machines, and we want to keep even our machines running properly. So we need to even expose ourselves from a materials perspective. It's good to expose ourselves to spiritual sound, things that are auspicious. And I started to think about it since travel lately, even before COVID, travel has become like such a difficult thing. You have to go through like half an hour of security, and all the time there's announcements going on saying, code orange, be aware of your surroundings. If you see anybody's left anything, notify the authorities. It's all like kind of things that you would think would be terrifying for a child. And now with COVID, it's gotten even worse. And I wonder if those negative messages aren't compromising our immunity, so that travel becomes so stressful because we get to hear so much negative programming. And they're even saying right now with COVID how so many of the new cases that have come to Hawaii are residents that have been traveling who came back to Hawaii. And just the course of travel brings so much exposure to dis-ease, negative programming. And what's happening now with terrorism, COVID, mass shootings are happening in the United States every 13 hours. Every 13 hours, people are just snapping out. They're like they can't handle it anymore. The people are reacting to all this negative programming. Even mundane scientists, they're talking about sound healing. What is the resonance of sound healing? The meditative experience of sound resonance therapy invites the body into a relaxed parasympathetic state, also known as rest and digest state. Individuals often feel profound changes such as their pulse balancing out, diminishing stress, increased clarity and relaxation, and a higher constant connection with their own body. People are so out of body, they've become so disconnected. Even Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva. This has become a very toxic. Kali is really progressing. And what we allow, any negative programming that we allow into our ear, is directly resulting in ill health and people snapping out and going crazy. So we need to be very careful and be selective as to what we allow in our ear. Prabhupada said, he told about the elephant's bath. And my question is, if we're trying so hard to advance spiritually, why are we tempted to hear mundane topics? Just why are we doing it? The elephants, Prabhupada explained, they take bath, they get all clean, and then they come out and they throw mud on themselves. Do we want to be like this, where we just we chant 16 rounds and we're getting all clean and all good and just feeling, and then all of a sudden it's like the violence to the soul comes in, where we have all this hellish programming, fear-based stuff. Why do we do this to ourselves? There is a whole movement of sincere seekers that believe in positive affirmations, which are mantras, and they believe it as a way to achieve their goals. But they're looking to improve their relationship with their selves. But they're imagining the self as the subtle body and not understanding the nature of the soul and its need to dance in divine love of Krishna. They're not getting that. They think that they're the mind. And so they're doing at least a sattvic thing to program their minds, say positive affirmations, only speak nicely to themselves and others. They're more in the mode of goodness. This is at least nice. But who am I? Am I this mind? Am I this mind? No, this is, I'm making a good relationship with myself and my mind, but there's more to it to really feel joy. Shabda Brahman is the transcendental sound incarnation of the Lord. We all need Shabda Brahman, this form of the Lord in sound. Prabhupada said sound is so subtle, you can from a long distance wake up a sleeping person through sound. You can be at great distance, but how do you achieve the wake-up call? Through sound. So Shabda Brahman, this is the solution to everything, is to be careful to only allow the incarnation of the Lord into our ears. Mantra means mind control through sound. So we're controlling our minds. The Yuga Dharma is congregational chanting, which results in Shabda, it results in dancing. We are chanting the holy names of Krishna. As a group, many of us, it says in the Bible, if two or more assemble in my name, I am present. So we get together. This is a big thing. The more, the merrier. Like Kumbh Mela, there's 32 million people chanting the holy names of Krishna all day and all night long. It's very, very fascinating. So Prabhupada's teaching us this: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And by chanting our 16 rounds, which is so important, then we're getting all this realization. And by reading and hearing the pastimes of the Lord, it's confirmed. We're able to fully understand because the purificatory process is going on. We're having realizations and confirmations of realization. And it's like just building on itself. It's very enthusing. It just makes us really happy and excited. There's something to share. We're bursting to share about Krishna's mercy. Hearing the glories of the Lord results in the 8 other processes of devotional service. There's a verse in Bhagavatam 7.5.23, and it talks about Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam, Pada Sevanam, Archa Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. And just by Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam, we get sambandha or connection. We're hearing about Krishna, we're connecting to him. And there is a particular deity that he gives the benediction of this connection, and that's Madan Gopal of Sanatan Goswami's temple. That deity, it is recommended that we all go and we get darshan of 3 particular deities that help us in this process of devotional service. And once we've been hearing about Krishna, it puts us into the desire to do something, to act, to serve, to love him, to act. It inspires us. It inspires us in devotional behavior. And we want to pada sevana, we want to worship the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam, vandanam, that means worship the deity, and vandanam, praying. These are things that automatically, because we're connected to Krishna and now we're engaged in these other processes, they just kind of snowball together. It develops. And Govindaji is the deity that they recommend we go and see to increase our abhideya. The abhideya is the action in devotion, how we respond to our connection. And prayojana comes from dasyam, sakyam, atman nivedanam, where once you've heard and you're now acting, you really want to be a servant of Krishna, and you have so much faith and comfort, like the cowherd boys. They didn't even mind walking into the belly of Aghasura because they said Krishna will protect them. So they're friends, sakyam. Sakyam is friendship with Krishna. We become dear, dear friends to Krishna. Like Arjuna, even Arjuna had doubts, still he had so much faith in Krishna. His sakyam, his friendship was so well developed that what did he do? Atma nivedanam. He surrendered his atma, his whole self. So this is the development of prayojana, this sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. We're developing a relationship with Krishna. And the deity that is recommended that we see is Gopinathji. So this last verse, I took the verse from Nectar of Devotion, the first verse of Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, is Krodha vegam, jiva vegam, uparo pasya vegam, etan veganyo vishahitadira, sarvam abhimam pritivyam sa shishyat. I know Maharaj chants this every single day, and he chants it a lot before he gives class. And this particular translation, Prabhupada has gifted us, and the Upadeshamrita is the most widely distributed book of all of the books of Srila Prabhupada. It is distributed amongst spiritualists all over the world. This book is very, very popular. The translation is: a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, and the action of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genital, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So we need to make ourselves a disciple of topics of Krishna, and then we can share them with others. But we have to control our mind, control our senses, control our moods. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
I'm going to add a little something right there. You mentioned the phrase Satchitananda.
Yes.
You forgot Satchitananda Vigraha.
Yes, the form. Yes. Yes. Jai. Very good. Yes, Maharaj?
Well, first, I guess I don't do this much, but thank you.
Oh,
I
Jai.
really love the connection you made with the verse and the purport with what's been on your mind, and were able to bring it in a really wonderful way. I hadn't thought about that Dr. Emoto's thing for a while, but I think it's a really fascinating, the idea is really fascinating. And that all kind of makes a connection, and then we've talked about polluting the ether with the sound vibration. It took me back to an article that we read in Bhagavad in 1970. I remember when we got this magazine. It was an article by Achyutananda that was essentially a transcript of a conversation he had with Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, in whose care Srila Prabhupada entrusted Achyutananda while he was in India. And so there's one paragraph in there that's just right on point, and I just thought I'd share it. Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, sounds, sounds, sounds. Sounds, catch hold of the sounds. Seize the sound waves traveling within the ether, and your happiness in spiritual life is assured. One sage has explained in his sutra that massive epidemics are due to contamination of the ether by impure sound.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And we have found this was spoken.
Can you
probably
post
in
that?
1969.
Can you post that on our new Nabadwip conference, please? Because
This
yeah.
was Srila Sridhar Maharaj spoke this in Nabadwip in 1969,
Wow.
where they probably had electricity in the temple, and he knew about radio. I don't know if he had actually seen any television, but even he was so concerned about how he talks about lawyers telling their lies in the court, how that so contaminates the ether. But we filled the ether with so much radio advertising and
Now
so
internet.
broadcast on the radio and television, and then the advertising, and then now we've got the internet.
5G
And the
internet.
ether is just completely saturated with garbage.
And when I was the first time we went to Vrindavan, Bhagaji, we went right in to see Srila Prabhupada, and Bhagaji was telling us that this is a dham, and it's made. This is Chintamani dham, and he said each grain of sand, if you put it under an atomic microscope, you'll see that it's made of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he went on to describe all these parts of the dham, that if you put those bits under the atomic microscope, each and every one of them would consist of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So he said all of Chintamani dham is made up of the holy name. He said the bones of the saints. I mean, he went on and on and on. So we need to only expose ourselves to that which was transcendentalize our entire life. Our bodies, our minds, and our souls are there, but we've got to drag this other stuff along so that in this life, we can become Krishna conscious.
By the way, the devotional process is to develop the relationship with the Lord. You forgot two very important things. There's sweeping them and mopping them.
Don't forget scrubbing.
There you go.
Very good. I love it. Sweeping them, mopping them, and scrubbing them, mopping them. I love it.
Waiting for attention.
Also,